will have Avina Adu as our guest speaker for tonight. She is the owner and founder of CraftWombman. She is an author, a doula trainer, certified doula, assistant midwife, Yoni steam practitioner, room yoga instructor, waist speed designer, distributor, all around community activist. Avina has been obsessed with childbirth since 2008 during her first pregnancy. And based on the experience that she had, she saw the need in our community to step in and help other women have a smooth transition during their labor and delivery as well as pregnancy. Her overall goal is to help create better birth outcomes in the Black and Brown community. And today she has a doula training certification program in which she focuses on helping birth workers and womb wellness practitioners with entrepreneurship. Because it's one thing to pursue your passion, it's another to be able to sustain yourself as you pursue that passion of yours. She has authored 4 books, volunteers at a maternity home, where she teaches expecting and new mothers, pregnancies, childbirth, and postpartum education. And she's also the creator of the semi-annual Doula Expo, Don't Birth Without a Doula. She is the host of the Black Breastfeeding Week annual celebration as well in DFW. And you can find her at various venues here in Dallas as well as Houston, vending waist speeds and teaching doulas online and in person. So without further ado, we have Avina Adu.
Thank you for thank you for that wonderful introduction and inviting me. I'm so excited to be here to talk about what I love.
We're excited. We are excited to have you. So we're going to kind of go through some questions this evening to ask Avina. And at the end, we'll kind of give an opportunity for those who want to ask some questions. We'll provide that opportunity as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen here. Let's see if I can. Okay, here we go. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. So our first question for you, Avina, is what exactly is a doula and what can they do?
Okay, well, the word doula is it's a Greek word that means woman servant, and in some dictionaries it says slave. So some doulas don't like to be referred to as a doula; they like to be called a birth worker. And I am essentially a birth worker because I'm not limited to just the doula aspect, and a lot of doulas are. But when you say birth worker, still people don't. They're still more familiar with the term doula. So I have no problem being a woman servant because that's what I am. So a doula is a support person who does non-medical things that supports a woman before, during, and after childbirth. And what she can do is she can give a woman and also her family information about what she's going to be going through. We also assist with fertility and even pregnancy loss and breastfeeding. So a one we just the role is various, and it really depends on what the client's needs are. Like sometimes you'll have to be the chef, you probably have to be the taxi driver, you may have to take her to her doctor's appointments, take her to the hospital or the birthing center when it's time for labor. Also, you can do those postpartum duties, which can include being a chef, housekeeping, just overall assistance during that journey, the birth and pregnancy and postpartum journey.
That is awesome. I did not know. I mean, I'm in the birth field as well. Well, I work with pregnant moms. I don't help with the delivery part, but it's good to really not only kind of learn about the root of doula. I never knew that it had a Greek root to it. So I'm glad that you explained that, and to also just really hear all of the things that a doula can provide for a woman. I mean, I can speak for myself. I didn't know a lot about doula services during my first 2 pregnancies. It wasn't until my latter part that I was like, wow, I didn't know that a doula can do this. So it's really, really, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of endearing to hear that a doula means a woman's servant, because I think a lot of women, we don't have that support, and it's really great to hear all the things that you can provide as a doula. So thank you for sharing that.
And I like to say that it's not anything new. People feel like it's a trend or a fad. It's not anything new. It's something that we have always been doing. We have always been birthing as a community. So you've always had that person who is the doula and also the midwife just working together with the woman. But it just, there's a term now, but it's something ancient. And with people being separated from their families a lot of times when you move to different states, and a lot of us working longer than we used to, so that's where the help comes in.
That is so good. I love that, because I'll even share, my family's from Haiti, and my mom says it's different in Haiti. We have women that come after you have a baby, and they cook for you, they do everything for you. All you have to worry about is breastfeeding the baby. And here in the US, it's very different, and I think that's what causes a lot of these anxiety rates to go high, is because it's so overwhelming to care for the baby, make the food, and do all those things while you're just trying to heal from after giving birth. So I'm glad that you said that it's nothing new. I never thought about that either. I'm thinking, oh, it's this new thing, but it's been existent for a long time. We just now give a term to it. So
Right.
Thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
So our next question here is, in what instances do you feel a client could benefit the most from hiring a doula?
Actually, in all cases. So that's why I do, I created the term "don't birth without a doula," and even some doulas disagree with me, but they feel like that you have to be at the birth. That's not what I'm saying. Even if you choose not to, maybe you just want it to be you and your family during the actual birth, but you still should. It would be beneficial for any type of birthing woman to consult a doula as it relates to creating a birth plan. Just let her know what she will be expecting during the labor, and also definitely afterwards. The most would be for a C-section. I would say, okay, the person who could benefit the most would be the person who has a traumatic birth experience, if she's had a C-section, and if she doesn't have support, if she doesn't have family or anybody to come to her after, and also if she has suffered from womb trauma. Everybody has that fear. They do have an aspect of fear, and sometimes, I want to say in most cases, it doesn't really work out the way that we plan it to be. So it's always good, no matter what type of birth that you have, to have a doula either there or either on the phone, somebody that you can talk to when you may need to have a question answered, needs to be answered now, immediately.
That's good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. Thinking about that, the pain that you might have to endure, especially after having a cesarean section and not having that support, I think is really, really key. I was speaking to a counselor not long ago who was sharing that, some of her clients, she, encourages them, hey, you need a doula. You need that support after having a baby, because I think it would make a world of a difference in your post post-delivery journey, your postpartum journey, as you heal from having a birth. So that's great. All right, so let's go to our next question. What is the number one ingredient you feel is missing in care for women, and how would a doula fulfill that gap?
Okay, so I do want to ask this question in the chat before I answer that one. Please elaborate more on the types of womb trauma and the effects on childbirth. If women have had experience with sexual assault, and even, I'll say that's one thing. If you've been molested and had situations with rape, you may not even feel comfortable like opening your legs. I've been in a birth where it was actually the labor stalled because this birthing mother had experienced sexual assault and had not confronted it or either dealt with it at all. That I learned that after the birth, and I stayed in the hospital with her for a very long time, and it's like everything emotional affects us physically in the birth. Even if a woman is having problems at home, she could be having domestic abuse, verbal abuse, she could have abandonment issues. I mean, a lot of issues that have gone on in her childhood that she hasn't dealt with. All of those things affect our womb. Fibroids, different type of womb challenges that may affect us. If you've had a C-section that you felt like was unnecessary, that could cause a lot of fear to come into the birth. And really, when it comes to birth, it's difficult to say, but fear really has no place in birth. So I actually encourage women, especially at that last trimester, to like go within. I mean, whatever spiritual practice you have, you need to like really dive into it, because the birth is extremely spiritual, because you have a unborn being, a spirit that's actually coming into this earthly world. So you want to be as calm, as peaceful, and as sure as you can, as confident as you can be during that. So addressing the womb trauma is going to be extremely important before going into the birth, if possible. And it also will affect you postpartum. So even if a woman feels like she wants to have a baby to keep her partner, it's more stress, because it's more responsibility with the baby. No matter how much money you have and how many nannies and doulas that you have, it's still like a great emotional responsibility that you have another being that you're responsible for. So yeah, you all can put more questions in the chat. I love answering questions. What is the number one ingredient you feel is missing in care for women, and how would a doula fulfill the gap? Probably they're not being heard. People may feel like, oh, that's normal, and I think that's also could be a reason, dealing with the crisis of the infant mortality and maternal mortality rate, like how women are saying, okay, this is what I'm feeling, like this is what's wrong, and they're just like, oh, just go home, and then you may not even make it back to the hospital or make it to deliver your baby, or the baby is here without the mother. So I think being listened to is the number one ingredient. Also, women, okay, as far as like fulfilling the gap, I feel like as a doula, we do get these trainings, and like in my trainings, I really pour in a whole lot of information, so that because you really are an educational source. For one, you need to be able to answer your clients' questions. And I feel like when a woman hires a doula is not the end all be all. She is a part of the overall birth team, but our health care is ultimately our responsibility. So we need to research and educate, have second, third, fourth opinions, educate the providers, educate these midwives, look up their record, research on the doctors to see if they've had any reports of malpractice or anything like that. So education and research is also missing, and that is when a doula should fulfill. So if there's a doula and okay, your client has preeclampsia, or just like she's anemic, find out what can happen, what you can do to prevent it from progressing and getting worse or negatively affecting the birth experience. So doulas are supposed to always be educating themselves. So like I'll go anywhere I need to learn what I need to learn. So I'm always learning. So we as doulas, we have to always be learning and able to give that information and education, because it's really a lot of ignorance with a lot of women, when they're going through complications and stuff sometimes.
That's great. That is
Okay,
great.
thank you.
So let's go to our next question here. I'm looking in the comments to see if anything pops up. As an entrepreneur, who trains other doulas, and can you share the top 3 skills you impress upon your students the most?
I will have to say, I mean, it is education. That's why I wrote the book. That's why I wrote the second book, The Dark Womb Redemption, a holistic guide to a healthy pregnancy, birth, and childbirth. And it gives you the 6 steps that I have used to get women to not tear. They don't get epidurals or emergency C-sections. I've never had a client to have to get a episiotomy, and just all those different medical interventions. So you have to keep on. Education is one. Number 2 is you have to have empathy. You have to really be intuitive. You have to be able to comprehend what the mother is saying without her actually saying it. Because we as women, we be like, oh, I'm okay, when you're not okay. So that's how sometimes you have those quick labors at home, because, everybody doesn't feel like this excruciating pain. But you have to really be connected to your client and be intuitive. So if I've gotten a client in the beginning, like her first trimester, by the time of labor, I can feel when she's going into labor. And I'm like, my back was hurting. That's when you was going into labor? Oh yeah, I just didn't want to call you, or I feel sick or something. So being intuitive, you have to have some type of intuition. You have to be I feel like you do have to be spiritual. This career, or this profession, like I said, is really you're dealing with a spirit that's not here and that's coming into the earth. The third one is you need to be firm. Like, you can't be a wimp. You cannot, like, I mean, and then another one is you got to be really flexible. I know I got to put that in there. You got to be flexible, because you have to be hard like the security guard, but you also have to be soft and gentle when it's time. So like, I can be really hardcore when it's time, okay, this is what we said, this is how the birth is supposed to go. No, when they keep coming in there asking, do you need anything for the pain? Do you need anything for the pain? And she said that she wanted to go natural. I have to, it's in the hospitals, it's just a fine line. You have to be firm. You can't be rude. You can't be disrespectful. So you just kind of have to flow. And then you have to be gentle with the mother while she's going through something. And also, back, I think, to the other question, like, even if I know a lot of women are like, oh, I'm gonna have a home birth with a midwife, so I don't need I don't need a doula, or even if they're going into the hospital, like, okay, I'm gonna get an epidural, so I'll be fine. It doesn't matter if you have a medicated birth or a natural birth. You are not present. You are in another world when you're giving birth. So that doula is the one who is detached from the family, whatever situations they have going on. That's why it's important to hire one, because grandma and auntie, yes, they're going to take care of you, but she's, detached from whatever drama or whatever you're having there. And she can be able to just make sure that everything goes the way you want to go as much as possible, because I've been in some difficult situations trying to get that placenta, and I've had moms to say, oh, the birth was so good, and I'll be like, they didn't even know how the doctors was being rude to me and almost trying to fight me over a placenta. And because she wanted her, I've seen a doctor. This woman wanted to get her baby's umbilical cord delayed cord clamping. This doctor did not even wait 1 minute. She said, okay, the cord has stopped pulsating, and she just cut it. So, you got to be wise too. It's a lot of skills. Yeah, you got to be wise too, like, that's just what happened. And the mom was like, oh, they did just such a great job. And I mean, I don't say anything, but I saw how rude they were. I saw how it was like they wanted to eat that placenta. It was like they did not want her to have it. So, I know that's more than three, but that's what I'll say.
Okay. And just to kind of elaborate, when you say you have to be firm, is that really used for when, like, if a mom says this is the way I want my birth, and the doctors try to intervene and kind of change her birth plan? Is that what you mean by being firm?
Yeah, but you can't really, it's a, like, she has to make the decision. So it's usually, like I've been in a birth where, um, you know how they just come in there and say, okay, we're going to do this. And I'll have to say, remember you said you want to do, because it's still her decision. And she can change her mind at any time. And I can't judge her. If she wants to go ahead and get an epidural or say, oh, it doesn't matter, they can, if she wants to change it, then she wants to change it. But that's what I mean being firm with them. And it's kind of like a thin line, especially if the woman is medicated, if it's pain, like she's out of it. So, or sometimes they don't want to be separated from the baby. So you have to tell dad, okay, make sure, you stay with the baby, when they do the exams and stuff like that.
Gotcha. So just making sure that the woman has her power to say this is what I want and not want. And
yeah, like reminding her. Yeah, like reminding her, because
for her.
Yeah, because if they keep coming in the room saying, "Do you want anything from the pain?" You can easily just say yes, even though you've already told them we want to do this thing natural, right. Or she want to do skin to skin. She want to stay doing that, and they try to pull it, or she wants to breastfeed, so you don't have to get formula, or just different things.
Gotcha. Yeah, it makes sense. Mm-hmm. And then just to kind of go back with training other doulas, who trains doulas?
You say who trains doulas?
Yes.
Okay, so the doula certification is not regulated. It's not state regulated. I believe because it's non-medical, it's not regulated. So there's different, it's just organizations. Some people prefer one over the other. Some may be more popular than the other. So it just depends on, whoever has a business. There's a lot of different doula trainings out there. The reason why I started is because people kept asking me to do it, and I would send them to other places, and they still would come back and say, no, I want to learn from you. I want to learn from you. So I said, okay, if somebody call me again, I'm going to create a curriculum, and I'm going to do it. And a lot of times after they do get those trainings, they still come back asking, well, I need help with this. And so that's why I added on more of the entrepreneur aspect, because it seems like they don't know how to get clients. And then it's very difficult to be a doula with a day job. I've done it, but I've had a flexible job. I was working in a salon, and so they were okay. It's still serving people. And, another person can do the person's nails, or because I was a nail technician, or the client will reschedule, and the clients loved it. They was like, oh, my nail tech had to go and be a doula. So I want to read this. Please briefly discuss how this applies to doula in end of life situations or pregnancy loss situations. Please elaborate with how this applies. What do you want? I don't deal with end of life situations. I've had several women that I know to have lost their babies, and most time they're either numb and they say they're okay, or they just don't respond. So I haven't really had that many I don't have that much experience with end of life situations as far as like a death doula. I think that's what you're talking about. And what with pregnancy loss situations, it's usually recently I had a person who lost her baby after trying for a while. She was like, oh yeah, we'll just try again. I was like, oh, okay. It was just like it wasn't a big thing to her. So if you want to just, if I didn't answer it, you can just let me know in the chat.
Okay. Well, let's go to our next question. Sorry, I cannot control this really well. Okay. Moving forward, what is your hope for the growth of doulas as an industry, and how are you creating that with your students?
Just the education piece, I've already talked about that. Being available for your client, because that's why I try to, well, I do give my trainees other options to make money. So that's how I even got into the waist beads, because I was looking for a product that went with, that complemented what I'm doing. So I encourage my clients to either figure out your how you're going to make this work, because we have to be on call if you are going to be going to a labor. It's not planned. So there is a way that you can do with your job, but after a while you're going to exhaust all of your personal time off. And so you're going to have to figure out, like, how can you make money when you are not actually at a birth. So doing more postpartum work, which is a set schedule, which some doulas just do postpartum because it's set, and also helping women during the prenatal time, helping them to prepare their birth plan, selling products, selling baths. A lot of people are doing the placenta encapsulation, lotus birth, and also vaginal steam. So that's how I got it certified. Well, wanted to get into the vaginal steaming, because when I first became certified as a doula, a lot of women were telling me that they were bleeding and they couldn't stop, and they were, having all of these womb issues. So what I would hope is that they will be available, be more assertive when they're, in the hospitals, because the doctors and the nurses can be pretty intimidating, and that could really affect things. So that's how, and I really want my students to be assertive, stay educated, make sure that you have something else, make sure that you can be available when she calls, because you don't want to miss a birth, because then you'll get the reputation of she won't call. And I've even heard of people going back to sleep, so after they get the call.
That wouldn't be cool. Cool. Awesome. Okay. Let's see. Are there any more questions? Do you mind kind of explaining a little bit about the vaginal steaming, how that process works?
Well, that's another thing that is ancient, and I'm sure you know about that. And I'm not sure what it's called in your country. So people say that it comes from Korea or from the Asians. It is an indigenous African tradition. This basically the vaginal steam, or it's called Yoni. Yoni is a Sanskrit word for vagina, and it's really powerful. I'm so like big on it, and everything that I do, I practice it. So it's basically, some consider it to be hydrotherapy, but it's just steaming of certain herbs and sitting over it, and covering yourself up so that you sweat, and it's a natural detox. So you're gonna make sure you can even do it in your bathroom, although some people feel like, well, that's where they eliminate, so they don't want to do it. But if you don't want to get a yoni steam stool, I actually have someone to make them custom order, so you can get one made, or you can just get like a metal bowl or some type of something that'll hold the heat in really well. Put that bowl in the toilet or a seat. There's so many different ways of people doing. Some people just squat over it, lean over the bed, and you'll put about 1 ounce or 1 cup of a blend of certain herbs. Red raspberry will be number one. That's like the overall uterine tonic. So I would say that as far as general, this is something you're not doing during pregnancy at all, but definitely before and definitely during postpartum, because it helps to get any leftover residue out. If there could be placenta or just anything that's still trapped inside the vagina, that'll help it to naturally come out. So you can sit over it for about 15 to 30 minutes or so. I know I do it a lot longer because it's so relaxing, but I was taught to not do it for more than 30 minutes. And I recommend you do some type of detox, like, doing herbs and a lot of water, eliminating meat and grains and stuff like that before you do the vaginal steam, so that you can get more of a benefit. And I mean, it helps so much. It can help with incontinence. It can help with hemorrhoids, boils, heavy menstrual cramps, back pain, PMS, fibroids, PCOS, endometriosis, polyps, a lot of different things. And also, we're just cleaning out, ovarian cysts, just cleaning out your womb area. Also, helps with digestion too, and insomnia and stress. I mean, it really does, and I'm not over exaggerating it, but it really does help. And I think that is something that we should do, because if you look at the things that our ancestors did, they didn't have all of these womb issues that we have, because they were on a regular basis doing this cleaning out. And I know even in Ghana, they like laugh at a lot of stuff that we do. Like, y'all really get paid to do something like that? Like, we do that. Like, even with being a doula, they're like, so you really gonna pay somebody for that? But a vaginal steam is something we should be doing on a regular basis, and definitely after childbirth. Oh yeah, somebody said migraines, headaches. Yeah, it's wonderful. It's a really wonderful thing. And how long does it take to complete my program? So the online program is 5 weeks. So we meet one day for 2 hours for 5 weeks. And then after that, there is a 6-month like follow-up. If you want, there's a one-on-one, and I provide advertising to help you get clients. So I would say 7 months completely. But as far as the classroom time, 5 weeks, and there's homework and